welcome to our first session for HCI 101, which is Human Computer Interaction. So we'll be expecting more students to enter this class. By the way, I am not really your original teacher, but I am taking charge of this class. Um, it's going to be a collaborative subject between me and my previous teacher. Anyways, since this is our first meeting, I will be introducing to you the content of the HCI 101 and what will be your course outcome or your final project for this subject. And later on, you'll also be discussing your project or your activity for week 4 and 5. So I already posted that in our VLT. Okay, can you see my presentation, my shared screen now? Archie, can you see the Word document that I am now presenting? Archie?
Sir, sir ka, umano mo.
Sir, di ka makitdunggan, sir. Off mic ka, sir.
I off my card. I'm sorry. I
Sir,
am so sorry. I'm so sorry. Good morning once again. Okay. So, can you hear me now? Can you hear me over there?
Sir,
Okay, very good. So, can you see my presentation?
yes, sir.
Okay, very good. So, I'll explain first the content of HCI 101. So, the course content for Intro to Human Computer Interaction HI 101. This course is intended to introduce students to discipline concerned with the design, evaluation, and implementation of various computing systems intended to human use. So, what will happen here is that we'll be using your proposal since Archie already have his proposal for his second year subject. And Paulo already also have his proposal for kani
Wala siya na enroll sa mga.
Laurent Termes. Huwag mo siyang suti. Wow, ba?
Balik na. Wala.
Laurent Termes. Nasa dira ba? We have Daryl. Okay. So, good morning, Daryl. I'll go back. So, again, we will use your present or your proposal that you have already last year. For Paulo, it was last year. For also for Daryl and Archie. So Daryl and Archie's proposal are now on the process of improvement since you are enrolled to need to certain subject. Kalimut ko. Other subject. MS 102, quantitative methods. So I would expect a little bit of higher level of presentation from Archie, Daryl, and Archie, Daryl, and Miss Rodrigo. So this is still, but since this is an introduction to human-computer interaction, I will not be expecting that you will be making prototypes that are Ingon kay kuan di kay lady to enter the ano ko siya na-admit. Nagkatun sa si lady. Ingon kay lady ha paki-chat na ay kasi maka-chat kay lady. Okay, going back. So, for Archie, Daryl, that's me. Okay, for Archie, Daryl, Louis, Jason, and Lady, I will not be expecting um, prototype or wireframes that are already clickable or HTML format. Since you are enrolled to Introduction to Human-Computer Interaction, we're still going to um, do the basic wireframing. But for the five of you, I will be expecting a higher level of proposal since you are um, enrolled to my quantitative methods class. So whatever you have for your quantitative methods, that will still be used in our HCI 101. But the level of the prototype or the wireframe that we'll be producing will not be in HTML format since that will be handled to a different subject since this is an introduction to human computer interaction. So for Juan Paulo, you already have your proposal before for CC 101. So you still need to continue with that. So just use that proposal for the HCI 101. So going back to the course description, we have here um, design, evaluation, and implementation of various computing systems intended for human use. So we will be making the prototype. It's because we wanted to know how the application will be used by a certain or particular user and how the user will interact with the application. So in a nutshell. So in order to do that, we need to have your proposal, you need to have your target client, and we need to have a problem to be solved. Because we cannot actually make an application without a basis, without a certain without a study on why is it that we need to do to come up with that application. So for sa kanang actually the all almost all of the people that are the students that are enrolled in HCI 101 are expected to have a proposal, initial proposal for this. Next will be emphasis will be placed on understanding human behavior with interactive objects. Interactive objects is, as of now, we cannot do the HTML because we don't have laboratory. I'm not expecting that every one of you have computers at home. But what we're going to do is this. We have to know first who are your users, what are their needs, and of course, what are their capacity when it comes to using the technology, interacting with changes, and also are they aware that there are possibilities that these problems can be solved by IT, and expected also that these problems are since they are already existing, they are also have several solutions that will help us in creating IT solutions. It's going to be not just solutions from the IT, but we get it from their own solutions to these problems. So interactive means the use of wireframes. In wireframe kasi, even though we cannot click on the buttons, we cannot enter or encode on the text boxes, we cannot expect an output since it's just a wireframe. But if you're going to map out your wireframe properly, you will now see the interaction between the user and the application and vice versa. Right. Then knowing how to develop and evaluate interactive software using human-centered approach. So when you say developing and evaluate interactive software, this is now the start for you now to create your capstone project. So that is why in BSIT, all our project starts your capstone project, which is the fourth year or an academic requirement for a graduating BSIT student will start first year with your CC 101. So you have 4 years. Actually, it's 3.5 years of development. So imagine. So unlike other theses that it starts third year or fourth year, in BSIT, we started first year because we wanted to produce quality projects. So aside from that, I don't want you to think of other things but focus on one project alone because the most important thing here is that you know how to do it rather than producing as many projects as you can. So unlike compared to my college days, with every subject we produce projects even though they are not related to each other, to other subjects. So that was really a headache. So, and at the end of the school year, or after I graduated, I don't know what's my, expertise because I'm just focusing on on complying or finishing each project without thinking of what should I learn or what I've learned. So yeah, and that. So in this institution in BCC, I wanted you to master the craft of developing interactive software. Aside from that, you also have to develop your research ability because you cannot jump into producing interactive software without research. So that's why you have with your activity and assessment, it's mostly research based. So at the end of unit requirements, dito na tayo magbanat sa mga interactive software. Yan. And I think the problem before katong mga nag-take na ani before is that they did not took it seriously na importante ang HCI 101. So karon since we already learned our lesson, so seryosohin natin siya. Okay, next. Ang human-centered approach pala, meaning ana is that since ang ato ang user sa atong application are not robots, we have to consider your user. So para sa tuwa, if we okay, just this morning, my cell phone is already out of memory. So it's actually bothering me right now because it already says no space and that it can no longer accept text messages or SMS. It's because the internal memory is just 8 gig and it's almost full and it has several pre-installed application that I cannot delete. So it's a J Prime Samsung. So what will happen? So I still need to look for workarounds so that I can actually use my cell phone because I love my cell phone. Um, it's durable, it's easy to use, then it's functional. Because I'm not that kind of person that actually dependent on my cell phone. I don't do games there. It's just for Facebook. Sometimes I text, sometimes I call, but it's mostly social media, Facebook and Instagram. And now we have VLE. So my cell phone is perfect. It so happened that the internal memory cannot be expanded anymore. So as the user, that's what I felt. So I'm bothered because what happens to to the messages I need to expect since it's already saying no more space at all. So that's what you need to think. Well, that's a consideration you have to think of while creating or developing the idea for an interactive software. You all Since this is the first level of the development, you have to think, you have to consider how will your user react or feel or accept the new technology, which is the one that you'll be introducing. Next is the general knowledge of HCI design issues with multiple types of interactive applications. So you have there your that that knowledge for HCI design will come from our book. So in our VLE, I already posted the I already posted or uploaded the book, which is HCI 101. So if you already have the copy of this book last year, that's good. So let me just open the VLE. Okay, this one, kani siya, kani human and computer interaction. So when you click this, it will pop up the book. The book will It's a PDF. So what will happen for week 4, 5, and 6, which is unit to rebuilding the future, we will focus first on your project. Just like what we have already in the garden. Just like what we have in our um, MS-102, we first establish your project. Mga silbing review na lang po. So, and then after that, we proceed with the uh, knowledge part. So this is now how we're going to learn the basics or the information we have to learn about human-computer interaction. So starting on unit number 3, which is hindi pa pala, hindi pa, ano pa, because what ang akong plano mang good is pag unit number 3, ibalik na ko ni siya because I still need to check your week 4, 5, and 6 na output. So whatever ina-submit dere sa unit number 3, we will be re-uploading or resubmitting based ako kung na based ako i-comment, you'll be resubmitting it sa unit number 3, that's week 7, 8, and 9. So, our midterm will end up with the presentation of your proposal, katong PowerPoint. Then from that, starting sa week number 10, we will be using the book. So, I will be posting study guide, which means that you will know what to study on the book, but you have to read first the book, just like what we're doing in our quantitative method. So every Wednesday, I will read your questions based on what you have read in the book instead of discussing the book. Because you already have the book, so no problems. Libro yun siya. So, for example, week number 10, we have to read chapter 1. So, Wednesday, we will be discussing chapter 1. but in a form of answering your questions based on chapter 1. So, yan na siya ha. Because I wanted you to also develop your reading skills. It's not just me who will read, but of course, no, me as your teacher will also have to read the book or study the book, because how can I answer your inquiries if I myself did not um, haven't read the book? So I wanted you to develop your questioning skills, your how you interact also with me, how you react with my question, with my answer, with my ideas, so that you will gain confidence once you undergo your presentation. So, muna siya dira nga, DSIT students, hindi na sa mahadlok na defense. Because in defense, wala na siya kinauna to adlaw. So, kung ang defense na to is going to be during 4th year lang, 3rd year lang na, collapse mo during the defense. And then, the good thing about that, if gina-defense na mo, gina-defense na mo every quarter ba ron, or on a daily basis, during the final defense, mas gamay na lang ang questions na i-ask. Yung man naman siya, natubag naman siya previously. So, ganyan. So, going back to the human-computer interaction. So, I guess, muna to siya no nga, the main purpose of this is to introduce how human interacts. Meron siya sa iyang course title, Human-Computer Interaction. How human as the user interacts with the application. Either it's a desktop application, it's a web application, or it's a mobile application, which is muna na inyo i-develop, starting yung development last year, during your first year, or katong mga first year karon last semester. And then that will be carried over sa inyong succeeding na mga subjects. So, kanya lang siya. So, let's go to the curriculum map para mas ma-understand pa nato kung unsa di din siya diay. Now, dili mo mag-ingon nga nagpatakal ko. So, you always have to open or read or refer to our CMO 25 series of 2015. This is the Bible of the BSIT or the IT program, Information Communication Technology, allied courses. We have computer science, information system, and information technology. Pero na siya kabuok. The this is yes.
Sir, ask lang po sir about sa releasing ka mo sa akin. Kanapa kayo pa kung natin.
Naapod.
Pa kung ni ma'am mo sa mo.
Ay, at wala si Ma'am Butchong. Si Ma'am Butchong na i-release karon.
Mga ganun niya sa master list sa loob natin matanahan.
Nama siya ang master list.
Nasa yan.
Oo. Nama siya iyang master list. Pero ani, gihatag naman ako sa gahapon. Ma'am Butchong na ina na. Nama, ina lang dito, ma'am. Nahatag naman ni sir sa inyo ang master list. Ay, wala. Katong master list sa akong katong pasabot niya, wala pong pabuhat. Pero dili lang siya sa kanilang sa. Kanina sa. Katong class list lang sa. Salamat. Sige. Okay. Ito sa CMO 25 series of 2015. Okay. Now, nakabutang diri is naa siya duha ka learning outcomes. Ang learning outcomes, mudyo na siya dapat ang matun-an sa estudyante after niya mag-take ang HCI 101. So, muna siya dira ang learning outcomes, muna siya ang nag-differ sa isa ka subject from other subjects. So, dili pwede na, for example, HCI 101, napamanay HCI 102, Human Computer Interaction 2. So dili pwede nga pareho na sila og outcomes. Or kung pareho man sila nakabutang diri, na siya specific na dapat i-target based on in diri. So later on I will explain that. So let's try to analyze first LO1 and LO2. LO1 says analyze different user populations with regard to their abilities, characteristics for using both software and hardware products. So sa human-computer interaction na subject, vital ang pag-ila-ila sa inyuhang mga users. For example, inyuhang application is about farming. So, naamo users na si farmer. Example lang niya, farmer, and then worker, and katong buyer. Mag-buy sa ilang products. Now, you have to know what's the role of the farmer. Unsa ba iyahang main character or unsa ba iyahang dapat i-fulfill. Unsa ba iyang duty or job description. Same as with the owner and the buyer. So, dapat distinct na ilahang mga job description. It's because you have to know what are their participation, involvement dito sa buhaton ninyo nga application. Then, disputan diri is that abilities and characteristics for using both software and hardware products. We should accept the fact that there are possibilities or bigger probability na ang atuang user, atong client, tawagon na to, dili na sila technologically advanced or savvy. Meaning to say, pwede nga kabalo sila mo gamit og cellphone, that's basic, pero pag may ta og mo gamit og application nga either offline or online application, basic maglisod na sila. So, ang pinakaunang buhaton is that tanaw nato dito unsay level of literacy, at least man lang, mabala nato na kung kaya o kung kabalo ba sila, di na tibutan ang kaya ba, kung atong kung is kabalo ba sila kung saon paggamit. Now, if ever di sa kabalo, that's the time that we have to introduce the importance first. Now, sa natunong kay ang problema magudin sa uban if kung dili sa kabalo nga importante di any ato ang gina-propose na application, they will not going to accept the new idea. Kung sila ba wala mari kita na ganahan kita mo kuan, ganahan kita mo kaon og kadiyot sa si Juan Paulo Mr. Bermejo, unsay favorite ni mga pagkaon?
Burger.
Burger. Unsa jud nga pa, unsa nga brand sa burger? Jollibee?
Jollibee.
O Jollibee. Karon di Jollibee nga burger ang paborito ni Paulo. Gitagaan gusto ko ako Paulo, palitan ti ka og burger. Kaso dili kanang Burger King ako ihatag. Kunya mingon man si Paulo nga, di lang to sir, kay Jollibee ra jud ko. So kato pa siya nga scenario is, imagine, same lang akong gihatag sa iya nga burger. Iyaha ganan siya burger nga Jollibee. Ako kay mahatag burger nga Burger King. Burger King is mas mahal ba siya sa Jollibee, no? Kaso ang problema mo gud ato, isa sa problem is that posible, wala ko nagsulti nga tinuod ni Habad, posible na dili familiar si Juan Paulo sa Burger King brand. That is why niya siya, dili ko sir, kay naandan na ko kaning Jollibee. Kaya basig wala lang si Burger King o basig ani. Wala pa may na-try ang Burger King. Kung ako na siyang ikuan, kung ako na siyang imutang sa inyuhang kuan, inyuhang proposal karon. Katong Jollibee nga burger na gusto ni Paulo, muna to siya ang solusyon nga naandan or sistema nga naandan ni Paulo. Kumbaga, masipag ingon na to nga simple lang siya pero na-survive man ko sir nga Jollibee lang nga burger. Kaso lang, napamailain nga burgers. Napay McDonald's, naapay Burger King, naapay Zaxx, naapay spaghetti nga, naapay S&R nga burger, naapay burger S&R, naapay minute burger ba o 9-minute burger. Daghan klase nga burger. That means to say na daghan pa di other solutions. Di lang isa. So, kamo, ang inyuhang role as IT students, kamo ang muhatag alternative solutions sa inyuhang client o inyuhang client. Ma'am, na ako i-offer na other solutions without getting rid of your other solutions. So, idagdag na to siya sa listahan. So, karon kung dawaton to ni Paulo, kaya ko, sige sir, dawaton na ko na sir. Tapos nikaon si Paulo. Karon kag pagkaon ni Paulo ni ana si Paulo nga. Lihay lagi siya glasa sir no. Murag mas lami lagi siya sa katong katong Jollibee nga burger. So karon si Paulo magunahon na siya nga. Sige daw bi, kanan aside sa Jollibee, kung maadto ko og sa may Gmall dapit sa Bahada, just muna pinakadoon ng Burger King. Palit na ko daw o Burger King. Tapos yan si Paulo, adto ni Paulo dito sa kanang Burger King. Yan naman si Juan. Mahal lagi ang Juan Burger King. Anong mahal man ni? So that's another story. I-explain na karon ni sa taga Burger King or di na po i-explain pero makita ni Paulo mismo kung sa'y difference sa Burger King o sa Yum Burger. Nanong mas mahal si Burger King? Tungod kay mahal siya, kay imported siya. Yan, local lang na si Jollibee. Pwede na siya. Mahal siya kay ang Yum Burger, kung naman siya pan or burger bun, tapos mayo ketchup na dressing, tapos burger patty. Mula. Samantalang si Burger King, baga siya patty, pwede pa din mag-double patty ka, tapos baga siya o pan, napali sesame seeds, napali lettuce, napali tomatoes, napali cheese, kana siya. Mo din ang mahal siya, kaso lang lami. O, so kamo, inyuhang kanang kuan, inyuhang i-introduce karon is nagyo na siya kaakibat na presyo. Okay, whenever you introduce a new idea, nagyo na siya kamahalan compared sa original na idea o katong base idea. Okay. Bago ko man siya, mag-invest man ka dapat. So, karon pag-invest niya ni Paulo, di po niya adlaw-adlawan po. Kaso lang, pwede po ang possibility na instead of using or eating katong burger, mas kaunon na karon ni Paulo ang katong Burger King. So, which is, muna inyong dapat naon sa inyong proposal. Dapat hinay-hinay na ma-adapt sa inyong client na ay bago na solusyon instead of just katong normal na solusyon. No, na ay bago. So, yan na magunahon na especially ila Lady, Darren, Louie, o Archie sa buang quantitative methods. Yan dapat inyong mindset. You have to think that this is a process. This is not an overnight na change or transition. It might be that it will take a lot of time, just like the coronavirus vaccine. It's supposed to be, it should not be or it should not be injected as early as this because wala pang kayo siya na-test o taro mo na ako medyo hesitant ko no udo-hado ka dago pero akong punto guys na this is a new vaccine wala pa niya siya nabuhat before. How sure are we that kani siya niagi siya o thorough testing? Yan. So you have to think of that. Eh kung iturok na sa to diretsyo, ninikirig ka, what? Problema kayo na. Pero kung pagturok sa tuwa niya, mas nigwapo ta o nigwapo ta pareho kay Paolo, okay na kay sa tuwa. No. Pero ang problema ani is that dapat siya maagi siya with several testings. Siya. So next, sabay dapat matunan na to sa HCI 101. Evaluate the design of existing user interfaces based on the cognitive models of target user. So, naman evaluate the design of existing user interface. Na, kani siya, it depends. Kung itag ka ng ano, naiduhat na kabukan awon diri. Either, number one is, wala joy igamit na automated or computer-based system. Now, what are these computer-based systems? Microsoft Office such as Excel, Word, PowerPoint, and even Microsoft Access are already considered as automated or computer-based system. So we cannot actually really say that a company is using manual system kung nagamit sila ani ng mga application. So, kung na existing na ganin siya gamit, na siya computer nila gamit, na siya application nila gamit, we cannot really say that they are using a manual system. It so happen that dili siya ingon na auto-generated na system. So, kaya na no. Tapos, kanang ginasulti na ito nga manual system, makonsider na ito na manual system is kung kanang paper-based. Resibo, pag-tally, pag-report, pag-record, kanan na siya is paper-based. Even storage is nakapapel siya. Hindi siya gina-encode sa computer. So, dito ta sa first, na katong wala dyan. First consideration or first scenario for an interface is wala siya katong computer dyan, as in papel lang di siya ganyan. So, muna itong ginatawag na ito nga live forms. Sa live forms karon, you have to know unsa ba ang dagway sa ilang mga live forms. Kaya, muna ito yung basis karon for your design sa inyong system because dili ta dapat mag-develop o ato ang sariling design sa ito ang i-propose na system. It's because dapat manggod kita ang adapt sa ilang sistema instead na sila ang adapt. That's the first phase. So, because we are not creating an enterprise edition na system. Yung enterprise edition, kanang custom-made na siya, hindi custom-made, kanang libuhat na daan, tapos kita ang gamit. Warag Microsoft Excel ba? Si Microsoft Excel, nabuhat na siya daan. Masiunsa ka nga company, masipag ka ng to, ma-culinarya, ma-bakery, ma-parlor. If you're using a Microsoft Excel, wala na siya bi-design para sa sistema sa specific na organization or business. Pero, ang business or organization mo siya ang i-adapt dito sa Microsoft Excel na features. So, that's what you call an enterprise na edition or enterprise na software application. Ang itong buhato mo karon is custom-made na application. Mean to say, tanawin sa nato ang inyong unsay naa sa inyong client, then let's convert that to an automated system. Therefore, ang inyong i-design karon sa inyong computer-based interface is actually based or referring to what they have in their company. There are possibilities when I changes when it comes to the layout, but the components of the um, interface dito sa inyong gibuhat na wireframe should be the same, should be similar to what they have in their own system. And when you say system, it's not necessarily an automated ha. A system can still be a manual system. So you have the a client-based system and you have the automated system. So yan. Karon, the second consideration is, what if inyong client naa na siya gamit na system, automated system, and that is Microsoft Excel or anything. So actually, masayon na lang na siya buhatan. It's because naka-computerize naman siya. All you have to do is to lay out a wireframe na mag-encode na lang siya instead of maghimo siya og mga matrix or kanang cells. So, na siya graphical user interface sa imuhang wireframe. So, mo ito yung matunan dapat sa HCI 101. Number one is to get to know your client, their needs, their limitations, so their struggles, and then after that, get to know the system of the client, whether it's a manual system that they have or a computer-based system that they are already using. So, bato siya. And what are those specific TI na kailangan matunan na to? Kajud sa HCI 101 aside from the LO1 and LO2. We have this graduate outcomes. So graduate outcomes, nato diri EIEA. So kana siya same as with all other subjects in mga IT. We also have that. So ano, ang pasabot sa I is introductory, ang E kay enabling. So if you're going to look at this map, duhalay introductory, tanan enabling. Meaning sa enabling, tagaan mo karon o kanyang liberty. Kung yung tag-introduction, it's actually teacher-centered. Kung yung tag-teacher-centered yan it's ako lang ang mag-introduce ana. So, ako lang yung storya na. Kamu mo dawat lang mo. Na-introduce man. So, teacher-centered na siya. Pag enabling gani, it's actually 50% na siya na teacher participation o 50% ka muna. Kung baga, warag kuan ba, warag ka mong kanang piso sa agila. Pag introduction pa gani, gilungluman pa tamo. Ako daw, inahan no. Itlog pa mo. So, gilungluman sa tamo. Karon, pag napusa na mo, hinahinay na tamo o kanang train kung saon paglakaw. So, that's already enabling. Pag demonstrative na gani, kanang letter D na, which is wala man D, which is na siya sa quantitative methods, no? Demonstrative na siya kasagaran. Dapat kamo mismo kabalo na mo unsaon paglakaw or paglupad na kamo na lang. So in other words, pag enabling siya, guided mo by the teacher on what you are doing. Kaya sa demonstrative, kamo na mismo ang mag-present sa kuang. Ako, igo na lang kumahatag o critic. Unlike sa enabling na, kita dyan duha ang as a student and as a teacher, ang mag-partner kung saan niya siya. So, guided mo along the way. So, it's expected because this one, enabling introductory siya because you already have the prior knowledge during your CC 102. Pero, actually, nakabutan ganyan kay CC 102 which is CC 102 is sa programmation. CC 102 is programming, computer programming. So, ang HCIDI, it's actually prerequisite na computer programming. So that's why you have to be very good with your computer programming 1 for you to be able to understand the level na kailangan sa HCI 101. Yung sa relasyon sa computer programming 1 o HCI 101, because sa computer programming 1, na-introduce na dito ang input-output na uh, na, na, na feature or na competencies. Input ka, mag-create ka o ka ng codes, tapos paggawas ana sa paggawas niya sa interface o sa yung output, output, mag-encode ka sa galing, hindi mo siya interactive, no? Encode ka o character, then na mo gawas. For example, 1 plus 1, pag-click mo enter, 2. Yan. So, na naman idea, prior knowledge on how computer interacts with the human being, at the same time, how human being interacts with the computer because of programming mind. So let us see how are these mapped. Can E, I, E. Saan siya di I? So let's go back to the map. Nakabutang diri sa 2, which is kani siya ay ITO2. Letter E siya, enabling. Enabling siya. Understand best practices and standards and their applications. So, ang quandary is that you have to know. Balik mo sa inyong client and then dapat mag-immerse mo sa inyong sarili. Ibutanin niyo yung sarili as part of the company or the business for you to be able to understand the system that they already have. Again, dili mo maadto dito para pag-uhon ng system. But since this is just the start of engaging to an actual client, you have to know their system. Yan. Number 2, enabling niya po niya siya ha. So, ang number 2 is introduction. So, IT03. Introduction. So, ano na introduction na siya? Adala. Analyze complex problems, identify and define computing requirements appropriate to its solution. So this one, introduce na to ni, and this can be found in the book. So pag introduction gani, balik ka sa libro. Next, introduction ang IT0, 1, 2, 3, 4. IT04. Identify, analyze user needs, take them into account in selection, configuration, evaluation, and evaluation and administration of computer-based system. So this one is nagyap niyo siya sa libro. So we will know the standards. Kaning introduction diri for IT03 and IT04, you need to know the standards. Hindi pwede magbuot-buot sa Sir Diego because there should be a standardized guidelines on how to create, evaluate, and administer computer-based systems. Bright lang ko tanong, pwede ko yung anak ko bright. Okay? So I also need the help of experts that made this human computer interaction books or references. By the way, na ako'y katong isa ka book, that's our main reference. But I have to introduce ako ang study guide. I have to introduce several references because some of them cannot be found in that one. But at least nata isa atong one, ha? Okay. Next, atutan sa 5. IT05 is enabling. So si 05, 06, o si 07, enabling na siya tanan. So let's see. So na siya. 05. Design, implement, and evaluate computer-based systems, processes, components, or programs to meet desired needs and requirements under various constraints. Kani siya is, since na naman siya, nabak-upan naman siya ani ato ang introduction diri sa IT03 o IT04, Then we can now start making, with the guidance, of course, of me, kung saan siya pag-design, pag-implement, and pag-evaluate sa computer-based systems. Can you put si 06 is integrate IT-based solution in user environment effectively? So that could be done with the guidance of me. And lastly is apply knowledge to the use of current techniques, skills, tools, and practices necessary to its for the IT profession. This one, it's actually modern tool usage. You'll be making tools such as Microsoft Visio. I do hope that you have computers, or at least let's look for another way of creating the wireframe. So you have to apply that using first siguro ko lang sa ta ka ng drawing lang sa ta. So and after that transfer na to siya o kanang modern tool. So those are the things that you have to know about the human computer interaction. So since it's already only have two introduction. So I wanted to make sure that this one is interactive. So ano naman ng human-computer interactions. At pa lang ang subject title is human-computer interaction again. So we have to make it as interactive as possible. So ito na siya. Okay? So for this particular subject, ang iyahad yung iyahad yung kanang final output or ako ang major project or what we call course outcome is atong PowerPoint na presentation kato siya that includes already the problem, the client, the wireframe and references and all. Kato siya. Muto siya ako ang pangayoon sa end sa ato ang subject ato ang second semester. So, if kanang kung inyuha lang yung kanang inyuha lang yung ansiran kung tama, ilang ansiran nga ba? Answer the worksheets, activity, the assessment, the unit requirements properly, then wala dyan may problema sa inyong final project because katong tanan ako ipabuhat ng mga activity, assessment, and unit requirements, pag inyo itong ma-fulfill every week, then sa'yo na lang kayo itong sa inyong final project. Wala na may problema. So, final project na to sa presentation, di pa ko makadecide kung i-live ba na ko or ipa-record na ko sa inyo, but definitely, you will present it sa ako. Okay. Before we end this session, because we still have a class, then 10 o'clock nun sa tuwa, kami na pumatawahan ako na ako. I want you to ask any question before we end this session. Any clarification based on what I've said talong adlaw for this session. And again, I do apologize that na-delay atong klase, but I wanted to make sure that even though na-delay ta, you can actually cope up with the minimum requirement. And you know already what are the minimum requirements based on CMO 25 series of 2015. So na ba may question, please answer ask it now. Daria, the mic on.
Sir, ano alam ni dapat i-upgrade sa aming
Yeah. Wala may problema actually kamo tanan, wala may problema supposed to be kanyan, especially si Christian, ikaw, si Louie, o si Lady. Kasi since kuan mo sa kuha kanang enroll mo sa kuang MS 102, kung tarungon ninyo ako CI 101, wala na po mo o nagtrabaho na po sa inyo MS 102. So hayahay kayo mo kay you are making one project for two subjects.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
So don't worry about that. Kay lahat pala po kay Jason, kung si Jason ano po siya si Jason ano po siya katong proposal na po last semester sa iyang CC 101. So kato siya yung gamiton jud. So anyways, you have already the guide activity sheets. Nakita na ni mo
Yes, sir.
Jason activity sheet.
Yes,
Sige
sir.
man to. Oo.
Actually,
Actually, gibalik lang ganyan ako, no? Ang katong sa CC101, no?
yes, sir.
Oo, tarong mo
Sa
na
gali.
dito, ha? Oo, katong sa jail. Tarong mo na dito siya. Kay dito niya
Ay, sir.
pagkapadulong. Okay? Kay
Sa
one
VLE
power.
lang gyapon na, sir.
Oh, sa VLE lang yan.
Pag mag-submit.
Yes po, sa VLE.
Ay,
Okay,
sir. Thank you, sir.
ang karon lang sa, ma-explain lang ko, even though na ay home study sa ako, sa first year for HCI 101, for week 4, 5, and 6, ang submissions are all VLE lang sa. Because, number one, mag-research magyapon good mo o kanang kuan sa internet. Then, kung mag-research mo sa internet, why not na lang jud i-submit na lang siya sa internet na lang po. Anyways, it's just document. After niyo mag-search sa jail, utang niyo dito sa worksheet and then submit. Ano lang sa. Then, sa unit number 3, still the same. Dito lang yapon siya kay mubalik lang magyapon ta after I check your 4, 5, and 6 na worksheets. Then, i-resubmit siya para before tama, para sa end sa midterm, establish na inyong idea. But I'm not saying na inyong idea for midterm is fine na. No. Ang inyong idea for midterm, ato alam na siyang gusto ikuan lang, tagaan na ito siya emphasis na at least naa siya. Para lang jud, naa na mo idea along the way kung maging activity na to starting week 10, katong inyong gi-submit sa kuha for midterm, hinahinayon po niyo siya o kanang update. O, kaysa sa mag-update ta sa week 10 pa or while nag-lecture ko mag-update. Na namang may daan na project katong sa CC101. Karungon sa nato to, and then ato to siyang i-update ni Hinday. Okay. So kay Paolo po, kuan lang ha, ina lang ko kung gusto ko matabang. Okay, since medyo basig nabaguhan ka kay wala ba tayo face to face, but anyway si Paolo kay comment mas na siya communicate sa ako katulad. Okay, so for majority of you will see each other in a few minutes ato ang klase na po sa IAS 101. I do hope ha nga na may questions sa ato ang webboard sa ato ang kuan kay para ma-accept mo sa atong ang klase. Okay? So, for any question, mag-post lang po o kanang kuan. I think naka-post ako dito o ano nakabalik na. O, naay webboard diri ha. So, for example, katong mga wala ka join karon. If you have questions regarding our subject, you have to ask them sa particular na webboard na forum. Since this one is for, if your question is about our week 4 na kuan is worksheet, dili siya sa week 4 na i-ask the question. Kung week 5 po siya sa week 5. So for this particular na session na to karon, week 5 naman ta. So if you have questions about clarifications or anything, you have to ask it sa week number 5 na worksheet na forum. Okay? Sige. So I think that's it. So goodbye and see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye, sir.
Yes, sir.